Hey guys, it's Shannon Greenwood. Welcome back to my channel, Recipe versus Reality. So very special edition. My gorgeous daughter is turning 2. So I wanted to do something really special for her, and we were having a mermaid themed birthday party. So this episode of Recipe versus Reality, I am going to attempt to recreate this gorgeous cake made by JK Denim. He has a YouTube channel called Koalipops. So let's get down to business. I decided to do a voiceover because of the incredible amount of time it took to create this piece. And it's also my first time working with fondant, which was incredibly frustrating. So I don't have any of your standard fondant tools. I used a wooden rolling pin, which I learned why people don't use those, because the grain of the wood shows up on your fondant. So, and also to do the detailing in my tail fin, I just used the end of a paintbrush, which seemed to do the trick just fine, and I just stuck with a paring knife to do all my cutting. So I was doing my best to add lumps underneath and folds so that I could get the detail of the tail fin flowing underwater. Something else that I struggled with a little bit was trying to figure out how to bring both halves of the first side together while also attaching it to the dowel. In the end, I did manage to figure it out. The first half came out a little bit rough, but considering it was my first time with fondant, I'm pretty happy with the end result. A little rough looking, but not bad. Definitely looks 3D. Also, something that I have never done before was a tie-dye cake. It's super easy. I used 3 boxes of funfetti cake because the kids love that. And I just added some food coloring to get this great teal color, and then also purple. I didn't quite get the purple I was looking for, so I had to add some blue. Then you just layer the batter and you alternate between the colors that you've made. The purple was actually pretty deceiving because it came out a lot darker than I had expected, which I was really happy about. Again, first time doing a tie-dye cake, and I love it. Absolutely will do this again. I think it's gorgeous. So yeah, 3 boxes of cake later, and a lot of baking because I only own 3 cake pans. I started stacking the pieces on my wooden dowel, frosting in between. JK used buttercream, and I just got traditional frosting from Hannaford's because I cannot make frosting to save my life. Guess that's something I'll have to work on. You don't realize how incredibly long your videos are until you have to voice over them after you've made it. So once I got all the pieces that I was going to bake, I just shaved down to get my my tail shape. Now, a standard tail, you could do a cone shape, but again, I wanted to try and make it as close to JK's cake as I could, and his was more diving down into the water. So go big or go home, you know? Once I got that in a shape that I thought was acceptable, I put on a crumb coat of the frosting, because after that we're going to wrap it in a layer of fondant. So time for the second half of the tail, or the other side I should say. That was really frustrating because I broke off a tip of the first side by accident. I don't even remember it happening, which was terrible, and I was freaking out. You can see I'm trying to patch it here, and I have no idea what it's looking like on the other side. I already have like 2 days of work invested into this, so I was freaking out. So I set something up underneath it to kind of hold it in place and moved on with the rest of the tail. Not really sure what was going to happen, never using fondant before, what it looked like on the other side. I was just really devastated, but I knew I needed to continue on. Overall, I am happy with what we are looking at. Now for painting. I learned that I am a sculptor. I am not a painter. So I used luster dust with some magic sauce for the outline of my fin. Doesn't look too bad. And then some icing color with more magic sauce to attempt at the watercolor. Now I knew the fin being as massive and heavy as it is, I would need the top of my cake to be more sturdy. I used a large clump of gum paste, and then I redid another layer of crumb coating with some more frosting in hopes that it will make the cake more stable. Once that was done, I rolled out another thin piece of fondant, well, relatively thin, to wrap the body of the tail in. At this point, I'm getting more confident in using the fondant, but at the same time, also more frustrated. In the end, I think it came out pretty nice. It was easy to stretch it over the body and then get it all smoothed out. And once I got it on there and really secure, I was really happy with how the cake was looking. The back wasn't completely gorgeous, or my seam line, but the rest of it was really making me happy, and I knew that I was going to be covering it in scales, so I didn't really get too stressed out over it. So once that was all complete, it was time to move on to the scales. JK had said in his video that you would do this 1,000,000 times, or to be more accurate, 1,000,001 times. And he was correct. It took a ton of scales to cover this massive tail. So in the beginning, I used some smaller sized scales that I made out of the end of one of my frosting tips. And then I used actually one of my bigger sets of frosting tips to make the larger scales. So just adhering each one with a little bit of magic sauce, and again, no particular rhyme or reason to the order of the colors that I was applying. And I was adding individual details to the scales with the end of my paintbrush. You can learn so much about yourself by doing videos like this. Like, I realized I make a lot of weird faces while I'm concentrating and doing these things. It's very annoying. If I could edit that out, I probably would. But I do love seeing my daughter and my rest of my family running in and out in the background. So I used pre-colored fondant to make these scales, except for the silver ones, which are just white fondant with edible glitter spray. That I made a ton of those because I figured that I would use more of the silver than any of the other colors. At this point, I had run out of colored fondant. So I thought, what better thing to do than go out and get my hair done? I waited for my husband to bring me home some more fondant so that I could finish up my scales. At this point, I hadn't noticed just yet, but my cake had started to severely lean. I also discovered that putting the detail on the scales right after making them made the scales less likely to crack as they were drying. painstaking process applying the scales was finally complete. I would let it dry overnight before the party tomorrow, where we would apply the fin and see if the cake would hold. I removed the dowel that I had kept in place for room for the fin and held my breath. Here we go. And yes! So happy with the final result. Everyone loved it. It came out absolutely gorgeous. Now I do notice, looking at it after the fact, that I could have applied a little bit more fondant where the tail fin meets the body to make it more fluid. But even with that minor defect, I am so happy, and my daughter absolutely loved her cake. So this completes another recipe versus reality. Oh, and cutting it was a great time too. There's the gorgeous tie-dye that we did. My happy little mermaid. And once again, here's our recipe. Thanks so much, JK Denim, for the inspiration. And my reality. Don't forget to like and subscribe.